Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Dr. Glenn Vo, and I am super excited to have one of my friends, Ryan Isaac from Dentist Advisor. Ryan, what's up, man?
I'm just here, man. I'm here with you. I'm here with the Nifty, the Nifty, and here's what I was thinking the other day. I was
Yeah.
thinking about Nifty, Thrifty, and if you had to pick one, would you rather be more Nifty or more Thrifty? What would you like? Where would you land on the scale of
Man,
little Nift and Thrift?
well, I'll say what I mean. Basically, I started as Thrifty because of like my
Okay.
whole family. And again, each time I speak with guys, for those who've watched me speak around the country, man, I always go back to my roots. I never forget where I came from. So yeah, you got to be thrifty. When you're one of like 5 kids, and your parents are like just blue collar workers. I mean, we learn to be thrifty, right? And so thrifty, but then as you become a practice
Nifty
owner, yeah, you become nifty.
I like it. It's Nifty, Thrifty, but it's Thrifty to Nifty.
There you go. Okay. Exactly. So look, I wanted to bring you on because there's so many, obviously in this group, everyone's like, okay, we're spending money on what matters. We're not overspending. We're being really smart. We're leveraging like our whole community. But here's the thing. Let's say you do good in your practice, right? And there's a lot of successful practice owners in there. Okay, then what's next, right? And I just get like my jaw drops each time because they're like, well, what should I do with this? Or should I listen to my CPAs or listen to my friend down the street or the kid that I'm playing video games with, like the gamer, they say invest in Bitcoin and stuff like that. Like, what should I do? So Ryan, I said, enough is enough. I need to bring you on here because it's just becoming maddening. So here you are. So Ryan, for those who don't know who you are, and guys, you're about to learn right now. You're about to learn right now. For those who do not know who you are, you're with Dentist Advisor, but what is Dentist Advisors exactly, and what do you do?
Yeah, for about 15 years now, Dentist Advisors is a dentist only. When we say that, we don't mean like we work with some dentists. We only work with dentists. We're a no commission fiduciary financial advisor. And that's all we do. It's all we know. It's bread and butter. So like that's all we know how to do. So we've been doing that for about 15 years. And, we try to help people stay incredibly organized. Which is like the boring, unsexy part of making good financial decisions, really, like if you don't know, and this isn't a shot at anyone, this is just really common. Like most dentists don't know how much money they actually make. Not what goes on the tax return, but gross dollars, Yeah. So if you don't know things like your income and what percentage of profitability and collections that really represents, and then where it goes from there, how much do you spend? How much do you save? What are your debts, your taxes? What's your net worth right now? What are you worth? When is your net worth big enough to stop working one day? How much does it grow every quarter, every year? It's like, how liquid are you? How much of your net worth is wrapped up in buildings or practices that you can't get cash out of quickly? So it's like, being organized is the unsexy like backbone of making good financial decisions. And then from there, it's like, it's all the, then there's a lot of logistics and how to invest money and how to manage cash flow and, how to make good decisions. How do you say no to certain things? How do you say no to opportunity? How do you say no to the what do you say? The video game kid giving you Bitcoin tips?
You're playing video games and you're streaming with this, and the kid over there, the kid that's talking trash to you says, dude, I just made so much money on Dodge. And you're like,
Dodge coins or Doge.
That sounds good, right? That sounds good.
I should do it. Yeah.
There you go. And it's like, it's just like appalling to me because again, this is probably a story. You work with so many dentists. We're going to go into why you only work with dentists and why, it's so important to kind of start this path here, working with someone like you guys. Right. But I'm going to go to this and you can kind of just tell me how often this happens. There's dentists, right? Most dentists are fairly intelligent. They are have a good work ethic. You have to have all these. Yes. You have to check all these boxes off to be a dentist.
Even get there, yeah.
And then you have to check even more boxes off to have a successful practice. Mm-hmm. But why is it when you have these group of high achievers that they're willing and they do all the research, right? Like again, like whenever there's a new product or there's a new procedure, they're like, well, where's the studies? Show me the studies. Give me the facts, right? Give that to me, right? But why is it when it comes to investing, you're willing to talk to your next door neighbor and just say, hey man, what should I invest in? Or you talk to your CPA, who your CPA is a professional that is good at certain things, and ask them for strategies to grow wealth. Ryan, how often does that happen when you click on a client and they literally use the internet and their neighbor and their CPA and maybe the guy that they play golf with to get their financial information? How often
all the time. But I actually want to ask you a question. I've never thought about it from that angle. So dentists typically, because I'm not a dentist, so I'm not in the clinical discussions most of the time. And when I am, I don't understand what's going on. So right. So, but you're saying that's really, really common for a dentist to see some kind of like procedure or a clinical advice,
or a new product,
and then just question the crap out of it, right? You're saying that's like a common, which it should be because it's clinical, it's medicine, right? That's I've never
show me this. This is their phrase. Show me the studies. Where's the proof, right?
I'm glad you brought that up because I would have never had that context. I don't know that side of like the questioning dentist, but the willingness to take financial advice from a Facebook group or a weekend mastermind is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I don't want to say like one is more crucial than the other, but one is your financial future and one is, other people's teeth and their hygiene. I mean, they're important things, you know? So I think you bring up a good point that academic rigor is not being brought to every decision facet. And I don't know why. I mean, I could guess why this is happening. But I don't know. But the bottom line is yes, people will go to a weekend mastermind, turn to the person next to them, get a piece of passing advice completely out of context or from the presenter, and then go, hey, we should do this thing. And you're like,
it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing, but that's why I'm so thankful for companies like yours. And again, you said it yourself. Again, there's so many different companies out there that do financial planning, that help you grow wealth, that put you on the right track, right? But you guys have really just said, hey, I'm going to stay in this lane. We like taking care of dentists. We only work with dentists. And explain why that is so important, as opposed to, well, hey, you know what? I just watched this commercial about investing, and I'm just going to go to this Charles Schwab dude or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, why is it important for your company to stay in this lane as opposed to just start working with everyone like these other firms?
Totally. Yeah. So we started our company it was like 06 or so. It was Reese Harper. Shout out to the man. It's his birthday today, actually. Reese Harper's birthday is today. Yes. The man, Haas. Wow. We call him Haas.
Wow.
So it's Haas's birthday.
Wait. I got to stop you there.
Yeah.
So you guys started a financial planning company
in the crash.
Right at the start of the housing crisis.
I remember it. I remember so vividly just having CNBC on. So we had this little office we leased. It was me. So Reese started the company, and then I joined him, shortly after that. And I remember CNBC being on TV, and like, I just remember thinking, wow, is everything going to be drastically different? Like, are we going to have jobs next month? Like a lot of startups, like we didn't know, we were just trying. But anyway, so early on, I mean, like a lot of companies, we just knew that unless, especially in an industry that's as vague as financial planning, because that financial planning doesn't mean anything really, it's a vague term. So we just knew if we were going to gain any kind of traction, not only in our ability to deliver quality advice to somebody out there, but in our ability to market and message. And Reese was always ahead of his time. He was just one of those brains. But he was always ahead of his time in the way that he thought about messaging and educating and marketing, So he'd always say like, well, if everyone's our audience, then what trade shows do you go to?
Yeah.
And what's your message, and how do you put out a video? Or we weren't even thinking of a podcast or Facebook groups at that time. So a lot of it was just born out of how do we become experts at one thing? Because once we do, then we can message to that one thing forever, and we can do it better than anyone else. And so it so happened that one of our first clients was a pediatric dentist. He was a friend of ours from the neighborhood, and he was just the guy that had more questions than anyone else. Like really. And I mean, clearly you said it earlier, super smart guy, very educated, highly successful, but he had so many questions. And we were like, that's probably a guy that's just too busy to answer these things, and get an answer he's confident with. And so that's how it was born. And we were like, all right, let's dig in, man. And we did everything since then. Every dime we've ever spent has just been learning dentists and the industry and the business as much as we can. And that's it, man. And so to your other part of your question though, why is it important for a dentist to work with someone who only knows dentists? I mean, I think a lot of people expect, like, take a CPA, for example. We get this question all the time. Does it really matter if I hire a dental specific CPA? And I think in people's heads, they're expecting that the year they do, all of a sudden their tax burden's wiped out because the dental specific guy just magically will know stuff and, secrets that, no one else knows. And that's not really the case. It's just that over long periods of time, there's so much nuance to being a dentist and a business owner, if you're a practice owner, that someone who knows what that's like is just incrementally going to add different pieces of advice and value and context and know your situation that over long periods of time is going to make a giant difference. But, that's also the unsexy truth. It takes a long time.
Yeah, and I'll add this, and there's a bunch of people that's on right now. Guys, if you have any questions, again, this is a live stream, and
ask some questions.
Ask some questions. I got some questions messaged to me. If you're the shy type, just give me the question, and I'll answer it, and I'll ask it. But type in the comments there if you have any questions there. Ryan, I'm going to get you some questions in a second. I just got the message. Because there's some people there like, I'd rather you ask it, Glenn, so that
you ask it, man.
If it's a dumb question, then it's on you, Glenn. It's okay. That's what I'm here for. I'll take that.
There's no
Ryan,
bad question.
To what you were saying as far as working with dentists, I think having a lot of years working with dentists, you pretty much have seen almost everything. Anything that a dentist has faced, or any issues or any strategy, you've seen it. And I think that's where the advantage is, because if you're working with someone who doesn't work with dentists, it's almost like they're learning from you. They're like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see if this works. And, oh, God, that didn't work. Okay, I'll remember that for the next guy, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing with the CPAs, there's certain things that, again, it's not that they know what they're doing. They just don't have the experience, and they're learning. So I would tell you guys this. Well, if you want to work with someone who's not dental specific, then would you like to be the person that teaches them on the
teaching
job?
them?
Because really, that's
such a good point,
man. They know their stuff, but it's like, do you want to be that guy, or do you want to work with someone who's, been at it since 2006? So Ryan, I'm going to go back to 2006 because man, we just went through something ridiculous, right? Like beyond ridiculous, the pandemic. And, and I tell people, and I opened my practice in 2009. So that was like the housing crisis happened and people were like still struggling. And I opened it. And
dude, the pessimism, you remember the fear was like palpable until like 2012.
Yeah. And so again, I was thinking, man, it's kind of hard opening a dental practice, man. I didn't think it was this hard. And then it got easier and easier as the economy got better. But I tell people, I kind of like got thrown into the fire, right? And so then when this happened, I'm like, okay, like I was at a point where my practice was humming along and everything. And I was like, okay, I've been through this before. So Ryan, let me ask you this. Since you guys opened like in a crisis, how has that helped you just kind of like, you had clients, you were bringing on clients that were facing these things. How did it help your company when you were dealing with your clients going through this crisis?
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't want to compare myself to this because I still look up to and aspire to be this one day. But you ever talk to like an older person?
Yeah.
And you like kind of tell them something you're scared about, and they just kind of look at you like, I've seen that 20 different times, man. Like, it's all good. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like we're that yet, but after 15 years and starting at that point, the principles stay the same. I mean, and this applies to business, economic cycles. It applies to the stock market, cycles of investing. Like, as humans, we're panicky, and we like to think that whatever is happening now currently is like the most crucial, important thing that's ever happened, and it's totally different, right? But the principles are the same. If it's a housing crisis, it's a shutdown from COVID. The principles are like, your business should be protected with liquidity. You should have personal emergency funds. Your net worth should be liquid. You should have a lot of liquidity in your net worth over time as it's building. You should maintain a high savings rate. You should be organized. Like, the principles kind of stay the same. So watching what happened last year, like, I was freaked out of my mind. I was scared. I was scared for everybody. Our entire client base wasn't working for 3 months. I mean, it was like a unimaginable thing.
And it
But
affected everybody. It wasn't like
everybody.
It wasn't like the housing crisis. It wasn't even back like when I was in college, like that .com crash, right? Like it affected like these speculators. It was something that
everybody, man,
every single person.
Well, and then I'm by nature, I'm just kind of a worrier. Like I kind of worry about stuff like more than I probably should. And so from a health perspective, I was like kind of scared and a little worried about things. And so everyone was totally affected. But I think just the principles of, look, unless the world actually just shuts down, like this is it, we're done. Unless that happens, then it's going to be okay. And the principles that got us through previous times will get us through these ones. And we'll get back to a point of business is good. You have cash flow. You're saving money. We now learn something. So if you weren't that liquid before, now we have a better goal in mind and you might be a little bit more liquid in the future. And I don't know. So if anything, kind of just life just teaches you resilience, I think. And not that things can't get you down or trip you up, but I think you just get a little bit more, I don't know, tolerant to the downs of life, you know?
Battle-hardened.
Yeah, you do. You set your expectations that like, look, it's not all good times, and we're just gonna have to face the bad ones too. And I think that's healthy for everyone to get to, and it just probably takes time, you know.
And you know that's why I was so excited to bring you on, because again, like you know, it's a good once in a while you need a good slap in the face to get you back into reality. And this was like a 2x4 to the face. So guys, for those who are listening right now, you understand we're all in the same boat, right? You just got a 2x4 to the face. You just realize that anything could happen when it comes to your health, when it comes to your business, when it comes to, you know, your finances, right? So now that we're slowly creeping out of this and things are getting better, I'm an optimist, things are getting better, things are trending up. Now that we got that lesson, and let's say, Ryan, for the doctors are listening right now who haven't been doing any kind of planning at all, they've just been focused, and that's okay, guys. You've been focused, your head's been down, you've been growing your practice, you're doing really good, but now it's time to take a look up, and you already did that. You got the 2x4 in the face. So for those who are not doing anything right now, walk us through. Again, I know normally you have like long sessions to strategize with clients. But in the short amount of time we have here, can you just kind of walk us through like what would be the next steps? What would you tell someone who walked up to you at a conference to say, man, I haven't been doing anything, man. What should I do right now? Can you tell me like now?
Yeah, awesome. So as we're saying this, I'm going to quickly Google really fast. I think the episode that's coming out on our podcast today, the Dennis Money Show, might be my answer to this. And then let me just check.
Guys, I just want to show you something quick.
Yeah, we do. Right here. It is today.
They have.
That is, yeah.
An amazing podcast. It's called the Dentist Money Show. Actually, I was on there, so check me out too. But I love it. You know, I'll tell you what, if you don't get any value from this, which you're gonna get each time I bring Ryan on, I promise you're gonna get a ton on their podcast. And what better way to kind of interview someone by listening to their episodes, right? So they got a ton.
It's my preference, man. Yeah.
Listen, and then again, you'll know what they're all about, and then feel free to quiz them about their past shows. I'm sure Ryan will love that.
So part of my answer, great answer. Let's answer that. I just checked it. So on the Dennis Money Show today that just got released, the episode is 280. Is it 280? I think it's 280. Yep, it's called The Laws of Liquidity. That will answer this question. Like if you wanted to go hear this question or this answer in a lot longer form, you got 45 minutes there. Episode 280, Dennis Money Show. Also, next Tuesday, we're doing a webinar on the same thing. And you can sign up for its free webinar. Yeah, next weekend or next Tuesday.
We'll talk more about that for sure.
Yeah.
We'll sign up for that.
But it's a perfect question because it's exactly what we're talking about right now. If someone's like, hey, where do I start? You know, I weathered the storm. Where do I begin? How do I know like how much cash to hold on to right now, prepare for the future, but also how do I start saving for the future? I would say there's 3 things to worry about first. And these things have to be revisited constantly every single year, which is why a financial advisor who keeps you organized and checks in with you is really helpful. Number 1 is your business needs liquidity. In the past, people might have defined that as like a month's worth of expenses, right? They might have said like, I'll keep 30 days of spending on hand and that'll be enough. Post-COVID, people are holding 2 to 3 months of cash in their business worth of monthly spending in their business. And I think that's fine. I think that's totally healthy. So number 1 is business liquidity. Number 2, your family needs an emergency fund. If you're the only income in the family, you should probably have like 6 months of an emergency fund. If you have dual income, that might be 3 months. So, but that's number two. So it's first business liquidity. Number two is personal liquidity. Number three is if you have any projects coming up soon, and that could be a building down payment. It could be the pool in the backyard. It could be the dream house, or the beach house, like whatever. If you have a project coming up, you have to pay money for, that's your third priority of holding cash. Okay. When you've covered those three bases, then you're in a position to start long-term investing, which could look a million different ways. It could be building 10 locations. It could be a real estate empire. It could be a giant portfolio in the stock market, whatever your thing is. It just depends. But that's my answer for like where someone should begin. 1, protect your business. Number 2, family emergency fund. Number 3, any upcoming projects. And then moving forward, now you've got long-term investing. But you have to revisit those too, because things ebb and flow and they change and accounts get drained and emergencies and opportunities happen. And then you got to revisit those, like our 1, 2, and 3 covered, before. And so that's why financial planning is less about like a printed plan. And it's about really a continuous process of checking those things and then making sure your long-term investing is like consistent and staying on track. So,
and Brian, we got a question from the audience. And again, I think this is going to relate to what you just said there. And this doctor is asking, well, what about companies that have like a template that just kind of works with everyone? It sounds like that's not the right way to go, because again, everyone's in a different situation. They have different needs. They have different they're at different levels. So how do you feel about that with certain companies? And I'm sure there's companies out there that use like a specific formula or template and they take everyone in there. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I think it's the reaction that most people will get when they get handed one of those. They're just going to be like, well, what happens when my collections change, or I bring on a partner, or I take on $1 million of new commercial real estate debt, or I pay off a loan and I've got 10 grand of free cash flow every month. Like as soon as one of those things happen, or you have a kid and now you spend more money, or you move and now you spend more money, like as soon as those things happen, the plan's out the window. There's no template anymore and you need a new template. So I think a template will work as long as it gets reviewed every 4 to 6 months, honestly. So, I mean, that's what a financial plan really is. It's a living, growing, breathing thing that, can't be printed really, because it's constantly, it's your life, and your life is constantly changing. So,
and we got this other question here, and it is, again, it's related to what you just said right there. How often do you meet with your clients? So I guess is it like a quarterly basis? Is it a biannual, annually? How often do you meet with your clients for these updates?
I'm glad we're actually going to record a podcast on this, like a year in the life of a client with Dentist Advisors. We're going to record a podcast on this today, after we're done, actually. But everyone's kind of different. But me as an advisor, and most of we're 5 advisors in the company right now, and we all kind of have the same philosophy. My preference would be to try to schedule something like on the calendar, whether it's a 20-minute chat or a 2-hour chat, like beginning, middle, and end of the year. Like on the calendar, we're checking in beginning, middle, end of the year. We're going to catch everything. Between those times, though, just from like historic experience with our clients, between those times, people are emailing, texting, and calling. I mean, I don't know, 12, 24 times a year. I mean, I personally probably talk to every client at least 12 times a year in some form or another. And some of those are reactive conversations like, hey, Ryan, I'm thinking about buying this building. Can we talk about it? Some of those are proactive. It's like I'm instigating it because I'm saying, hey, I've been tracking your net worth and your spending and your savings rate and all these things, and I want to talk to you about it. And I want to show you the trends, and I want to show you where they're headed. And so sometimes they're like initiated from my side, and all the data that we collect and analyze throughout the year, and it might be something I initiate. So, but it's like our process, the company we chose to build, the service model we chose to have is different than the industry. The industry, like, just for some insight, if you're a financial advisor in the industry, typically what you do is you just go out there and you try to find as many people as you can and either sell them products, right? Like insurance, or, which we don't do, or find as many people as you can to just set up investment accounts for them. And then the goal would be to talk to them as little as possible, right? And so to do that, to make good money as an advisor, usually you're talking 500 to 1,000 clients.
So they're working on volume essentially.
Volume, man. And then like,
and then they're like, hey, I, put you on autopilot and just go.
Yeah,
away.
Autopilot. Hopefully we talk.
Okay, right? Hope you're okay.
Yeah.
Later.
Maybe we talk once every couple years or something. And, but we chose to build a company where our advisors are kind of capped at like 120, 130 relationships tops. And we're talking to people a lot constantly throughout the year, because that's our way of saying this is how we feel quality planning can be delivered. So, but high communication. Yeah, for sure, man.
I mean, I love that, because again, I think like a lot of people who already work with financial planners or have done it in the past, I've heard like they've gotten burned somehow, or they didn't have a good experience. And then they say, well, man, all those guys are like that, man.
Totally.
I'm
skeptical too. That's fair.
Wow. And then that's where they go, like, I'm just going to go to a mastermind and just like get some advice and just put all my money into,
whatever they said last weekend,
digging wells or something like that, or whatnot. Wow. So, okay. So if someone wants to work with you guys, right? So I want to kind of work through what's the first thing they do? They reach out to you guys. Obviously we want you guys to watch listen to the podcast, kind of gets an idea of possibly the company and what Ryan and his team's all about. So what, they just go to your website and just reach out to you guys? How does that work exactly?
Yeah. So I'll say, you mentioned this before, and I want to reiterate this. I would rather a dentist take like a year to figure out who we are and then call us, before calling us really not knowing and then expect to be pitched something. Because I'll speak for all of our advisors at Dentist Advisors. Like, we don't do sales pitches. Like, we're just not in the business of pitching people a sales pitch. We don't have one.
It's so refreshing, because honestly, like I made a joke. I was at an event over the weekend, and I'm like, hey, once you walk down there, which is the exhibit area. Once you walk down there, you're gonna be like, everyone wants a piece of you. Right.
Crazy,
and we joke around. It doesn't matter what you look like.
And who likes that, man? Who enjoys that process? I hate it. Yeah. I hate being pitched things, and I won't do it to other people. And we've built a culture, and we've hired people who think that same way. So we'll educate all day long. But so step one, preferably listen to the Dentist Money Show, go to Dentist Advisors, watch videos, read articles, and you'll be able to tell, like, oh, I like these guys' philosophy, and I like their tone and kind of their demeanor. Or you just might not like it at all, and then you never call, and it saves everyone some time. So, but that's always the first thing. It's always great if you do some homework before, but usually go to the website, dentistadvisors.com. There's a book free consultation, and we'll have a chat with you. And those consultations, again, they're not pitches. They're, tell me about your practice and your life and your goals and where you're headed, and why are you thinking about an advisor? Have you had one before? What are you expecting from an advisor? And then we'll totally like educate and share what we do, what we're about, how we get paid, the work we do, the hours we spend on it, what we believe about financial planning. And over, sometimes it's one conversation. Oftentimes it's a couple or several. We'll come to a mutual agreement, like, hey, you'd be a good client for our firm, and we'd be a really good fit for your life. And then we go through an onboarding process where we don't make any. So this is what's different about us too, is we don't make any financial recommendations until we know everything about somebody. So you'll see that I hear this a lot, like, oh, I met a financial advisor, and then they came back with all these recommendations. And I'm like, based on what, man?
Yeah, just like that conversyour They're like, oh, here you go. Here,
think about if dentistry ran that way. Like, I go in there and you're just like, hey, smile, and then you're like, all right, here's your treatment plan, and I'm like, you didn't even take any pictures, man. Yeah. You got to poke a little bit. Yeah. And so we go through our version of X-rays and exams. We build a balance sheet. We track spending and income and net worth and taxes and debts and insurance. We know the picture. And it takes like a month. That's our onboarding process. And then when the picture's clear, then we do strategy. And then we say, all right, let's save money in these accounts. Let's pay off debt this way. Let's fix this thing that was already happening before we met you. Or let's make this big decision you've been sitting on. And then from there, it's kind of maintenance, where we're meeting, like we talked about, frequently throughout the year. But that's the logistical process. But I want to reiterate, listen to the show and like get to know us first before you call. It'll help a ton when you do.
And for those who are listening right now, we got to hook up right now, right? The stars have aligned. These guys are doing a webinar next week, right? Again, is that webinar going to be capped at a certain amount? Can you talk about that webinar? Because again, what better way to really get to know these guys?
Perfect, man. Yeah.
So talk about the webinar. Is it capped? Who can join? How do you join? Let's talk about that real quick.
So go to dentistadvisors.com, click on the events tab. The webinar is titled, How Much Cash Should You Hold On To Right Now? So it's a bit of what are the steps in a good financial plan? And it's also kind of, we'll hit the question. I mean, this is a question that is always on people's minds. A lot of people don't realize it doesn't matter what the economy's doing. People are always asking, what's the market going to do? Should I wait before investing? And that's a constant question. So we'll touch on a little bit of that. But yeah, as far as a cap, I don't know. It's a Zoom. So if Zoom caps us, usually our attendance is around 200 and no one's been kicked out or left out yet. So I think but there, there's a lot of people, and we usually go for about 60 minutes and then 20-30 minutes of Q&A, and it's great, man. It's a lively group and people ask questions throughout the whole thing, and it's really low key and really personal, and I love doing these things. We do them every month. So yeah, it's next Tuesday, dentistadvisor.com. There you go.
Yeah, I got the link right there. I'm going to put it in the comments. I'll make a separate post, and guys, let's do something here. Let's force Ryan to upgrade his Zoom account. Let's do that. Let's do that. You got 250. Let's make him go to like the agency level. And I think
it is. It's the company's Zoom account. I think it is. I just don't know what it is. Is it 500? Is it 1,000?
Let's get it over 250 so that
let's push the limits.
Like, okay, looks like I have to upgrade.
Let's force our hand.
But you know what? I think that again, I mean, if you're thinking about possibly working with any kind of financial advisor, I mean, look, there's a webinar here. Obviously, you got a lot of information watching this right now or listening to this right now. And again, you can also check out the other episodes on the Dentist Money Show.
Yeah.
But here's the webinar, guys. I mean, at this point, if you go through all those steps, you're gonna be pretty sure if you want to work with these guys or not. So the stars have aligned for everyone. That webinar is next week there. Solid. I love it. How often do you guys do these webinars? I'm curious.
Yeah, they're monthly. So we do 2 webinars a month now. One of them is our topic, and it's usually the last Tuesday of the month? That'd be next Tuesday. So it's our topic, some financial topic. And then we'll also do a partner webinar where we'll bring someone on and I'll interview them as well. And that's usually like the second week of every month. So really active there, man. Yeah.
So I want to get to this question before I forget here. And that is, okay, so how do you guys work with like an existing team, like with a CPA and and maybe their attorney that looks at contracts and stuff like that? How do you guys fit in that ecosystem? And is it a pretty easy like fit, or is there going to be like, hey, we should do it this way, and no, I don't want to do it that way? How does that work?
Yeah. When you Usually it's pretty smooth, man, because we don't compete with, so we're only financial planners and we only invest money for people. So we don't do taxes, bookkeeping. We're not attorneys. We're not practice consultants. We don't broker practices. Like, we have bread and butter and we let everyone else do their own bread and butter. So we work really well with like CPAs like us because we don't sell their clients financial products. Like, we don't sell them insurance and annuities, and we don't do taxes. So we don't step on their toes. Consultants love us because we're not also consultants. We integrate really well. I think a lot of clients find us to be a bit more of a quarterback in their professional situation, in their big circle of professionals, because we just keep such a big, complete picture. Not only do I know what someone's tax returns look like and what their income and their tax burden was and what their profitability was, but I also know what their personal net worth is, and I know what them and their spouse spent last month on Amazon. Like, we just have such a full, complete picture. We don't sell insurance. We don't make money on insurance, but we track it and we consult on it. So we work well with someone's insurance person, and we're an objective, independent third party to say, like, here's what I think your insurance should be, but I don't get paid for this stuff. So we'll have someone else implement it. And we work really well with those people. And oftentimes we become kind of like that central quarterback relationship, just because we know so much about the whole picture instead of like one piece of it, instead of just accounting or legal or consulting, like, we kind of just like watch the whole thing. And so it gives us it's a unique perspective for sure.
And if someone's coming on and they're actually literally just wanting to make a clean break, a clean transition from whoever they were using for financial planning, whoever they had as a CPA, and they come to you guys and say, okay, I want to work with you guys, but do you have any referrals? Is that something you guys
with,
or is it kind of like, hey, dude, I don't want to touch. I
Oh
don't want
no.
to toes. You just find your own
Yeah.
person and bring them back.
I mean, we've been around for a long time in only the dental space, so we have a lot of great partners to refer to, and no one pays us for that stuff. So it's really just like the people who I know will do a good job and make me look good for referring them, are the people I'll refer to. And so, we're not exclusive with anybody, but I do have people that I've just seen have demonstrated that they just do a better job than other people I've met. So yeah, we can help make introductions to all kinds of people, bankers, CPAs, attorneys, consultants, Facebook groups. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we're involved with. And because no one pays us like on a, like an ongoing kind of thing, we're pretty objective in that way. And I just want someone to have a good job done for them, whether it's accounting or consulting or whatever it is. I just want them to have good service,
And you guys have been at this for a long time, so you actually have worked with some of these CPAs that you would recommend. And again, like if they weren't doing a good job, it would make your job harder.
Yeah, it would. Yeah,
it would make your life harder. You would make your job harder if they were not taking care of their clients and whatnot. I love it. I love it. Yep. Okay, guys. So, man, we covered a whole bunch. I want to let you guys know this, that Ryan is someone that I'm going to continually. I know he's a busy guy, but I'm going to continually drag him back in here.
I love it.
We're going to bring him back on for more Facebook Lives because there's so many different things. But honestly, I wanted you, for those who don't know about dentist advisors, now you know. Now you know, Ryan. Now you know about the Dentist Money Show. And you also know that, hey, they do webinars every month. The next webinar is next week. And there's no pressure. Reach out. Learn as much as you can. They want to make sure that you feel comfortable before you reach out to them. So, again, Ryan, thank you so much for jumping on, man. Before we jump off here, obviously we talked about getting out of the pandemic and whatnot. I always ask people who give a little bit of advice. Obviously, we're getting out of it. What's your advice to some of these docs who, man, they weathered the storm and now they're back to the road to recovery? What are some of the things that you would give to them advice-wise? It could be business, it could be personal, whatever kind of advice you want to give.
Yeah, man. Well, my bias is going to bleed in here. So from a professional standpoint, I would just say, like, I think optimism wins. I really do. Until the world ends one day, in which case, like, who cares? But I think optimism wins. I think it's great to be optimistic for the future and like hope for things and expect things to be not without problems, but to be great, And so from that perspective, I would say have optimism and never get tired of perfecting the basics. Like never assume that we are above the basics, of like being organized and saving enough money and not spending too much and being good with your teams and building strong relationships in your life, like those basics can never be perfected enough. So that's one thing I would say. From a personal standpoint, I'm 40. I'm like midlife crisis burning hot right now. And my midlife crisis, I picked up in the middle of the pandemic, like this childhood dream of mine I started. And so my personal advice would be like, you got to have some fun along the way. Yeah. And your life better be balanced because you'll burn out in dentistry well before your time. And so I would rather a dentist make less money along the way, but work for longer because they enjoy it and have longevity than someone like burn out early while trying to make a ton of money really fast.
I love that. I love that advice. And again, it's refreshing to hear it from someone like you who, your job is to make sure, okay, you're helping the dentist grow wealth there. But, when we're talking about growing wealth, I mean, if you are not right up here and here, right here and here, then you'll actually end up making less.
You will. You will make less money.
Because something bad will happen, and it might happen to you or it might happen in your relationships. And at the end of the day, what's the point of working really hard, right?
Yeah, no, man. One of the best financial planning tools that every dentist has in their control is how long they work and how long they have an income. And it doesn't mean 6 days a week, 100% ownership. It could mean like a day a week working back for the practice you just sold. Really, I mean, it's everything in between. But the longer you can have any bit of income, I mean, just the longer your portfolios can keep growing and you don't have to spend your investment money, and the more you can save, and it's healthy. So stay balanced, don't burn out, enjoy life along the way, man.
Ryan, let me ask you this. Would you consider failed relationships, right? Whether it be with your spouse or even with your family, would you say that is probably one of the biggest wealth killers?
Yeah, it's tough, man. Especially if you're just talking about divorce, then yes, it's I mean, it's like yeah, like it emotionally just drains people, it crushes them, which affects people physically, like our emotional health and mental health affects our physical health. And so, but yeah, it plays a huge part and I watch it happen every year, and nothing I can do to change it, but try to help them through it. But it's a big one, man.
I bring that up because, again, it kind of ties into what you just said there, that sometimes we feel like, okay, I need to just work X amount. I got to get this number. I got to just work. And at the end of the day, it's like, you got to make sure you take care of your relationships.
You do, man. Yeah,
you got to make sure you can't. That's part of like everything, right? That's the reason why you work so hard. But also it ties into everything. So whether it be relationship with your spouse or maybe your parents, or maybe your kids, right? You work so hard, you do all these things, and you do the right things, but if you neglect that part of your life, it will come back on you emotionally, physically, and then financially too. So again, like, I love the thing that you just said there, like, take some time, enjoy life with your loved ones, right?
Go a little slower, man. Go a little slower at work. It's okay. Like, I think that's a weird thing to admit out loud. And a lot of dentists get started later in life because schooling takes so long and there's so much debt. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure to hurry. Yeah. But there's not. Like, you make so much money as a dentist statistically. It's going to be okay. Go a little slower and just, maintain some balance in those relationships and your quality of life, because it will affect your financial life and your future for sure.
I love that. Okay, so Ryan, I'm not going to let you get off the hook, man.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, you said that you spent something like, and you didn't say what it was.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Before we get off here, Ryan, what is it? What was it, man? I'm not letting you get off the hook here. What is it?
Well, I feel like I talk about it so much lately that I'm trying to, like, not be annoying about it. But I don't know if you can see, like, in the corner of my room here, my surfboard's hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
So childhood dream. I was born and raised in Utah, nowhere near the ocean. I didn't know anyone who surfed, but like, I'm talking, I can remember being a little kid and just dreaming of being a surfer. And so middle of pandemic, I'm in Phoenix, 5.5 hours away from San Diego. And so a friend of mine who also did the same thing, like midlife, learned how to surf, got me into it, took me on one trip with a giant foam surfboard. And I was like, dream realized, instantly hooked. And then I got a van and put a bed in the back of it. And now I drive to the coast a couple times a month and bring my kids. Like, it's cool. I get to bring my kids with me and share that dream with them. So that's my crisis, man. That's what I
love it. I love it. And how much fun is that? And now I guess
it's amazing.
Now on your to-do list is possibly go to Hawaii and check out the waves there. Other places.
All I think about. That's all I think about. Yeah. Like, when's the next dental conference in Costa Rica? Because I'd really like to make that happen, dude.
I would have to tell you something about that, because a friend of mine is opening a learning center down there, and I'm like, can I just invest so I can just get a condo there?
I will give free education. I will pay my own way. I'll be there. You let me know. I'll do it.
I love it. Ryan, thank you so much for jumping on. Guys, we're going to put some links to the webinar. We're going to put all these different things. Reach out to them. And again, we're going to bring them back because there's so many things that you guys need to learn from them. So Ryan, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all later.
Okay, catch you next time. Thanks, guys.